Welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual free thinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Dorothy, the associate for this morning, and the service today will be led by Reverend A.J. Van Tine. Thank you to everyone on this morning's worship team, also including music by Bill Mills and religious education for children 3 and over by Nancy Reed and Kaya Mills. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the book in the visitor's book in the entryway. Whether it's your first time or your 1000th time, we're glad you came. This service is also being live streamed on our YouTube channel. We plan on continuing with hybrid worship associates services, so you can join us each week here in person, on Zoom, or later you can watch us on YouTube. To help us connect better with our friends watching from home, please turn around and give a wave to the camera. At the end of this service, we will invite our friends on Zoom to turn on their cameras and return the wave. I have a few announcements to share with you today. To help make the most of our time together, event details can be found on the printed announcements in the back of the room or in the weekly email. If you have a joy or sorrow to share, please fill out the card on or near your chair. We invite you to bring them forward and place them in the basket after Bill rings the chimes and begins to play. You can also come forward to drop a pebble in the water if you have a joy or sorrow that you'd prefer not to share. Saturday, April 4th will be our annual Easter egg hunt. We will be filling eggs after the service today. If you are able to hide eggs for the children on the morning of the hunt, connect with Laura Wink or Pat Mills. Side with Love short sleeve t-shirts are on sale for $15. Long sleeve shirts, sweatshirts, and hooded sweatshirts are available at the regular price. The 3 local UU church logos are on the back of each shirt. Adult and youth sizes are available. Orders will be ready within 2 weeks of ordering. You can find the link to order in the weekly email or in the printed announcements at the back of the room. Are there any other announcements today for the good of the community?
There's a new scam going around, and this one says notice of default from the state of New York of the City of New York Traffic Division. Anybody wants to take a look at it afterwards, I can show you what it looks like. But if you know anybody who's getting any strange texts or emails having to do with something like that, you should take a close look at it and help them out.
Hi, I'm Megan. Kaya Mills and I have been working on the Pride bin. We have a bin of stuff to take to Pride events for the Social Environmental Justice Committee. And last year it was asked that we kind of take an inventory and make sure there's everything in that kit that people would need so they could just pick it up and go to an event and be prepared to do all the things that you would do at that event. There's been a list in some of the emails. Just keep your eyes peeled. There'll be an email sometime this month, I think, with the list of things that we still need. We're hoping that if you have, rainbow-themed things at home, or there's things like a first aid kit on there, tape, markers. If you could just check at home, if there's stuff that you don't need anymore, we'd love to kind of thrift it first, and then pretty soon we'll be looking at what's left, and then purchase what we need to do to have that kit ready to go for Pride events this spring and summer. So keep your eyes peeled for the email, and really anything that would be kind of good for decorating the tent or giving in on the list. We'll take that. And you can just see me or Kaya Mills about it, or leave stuff if you were not here, leave it on the counter in the back corner there by the library. Thanks.
Related to Megan's announcement at the Social and Environmental Justice Committee meeting last week, we decided that the Social and Environmental Justice Committee of UUCC would be a sponsor of this year's Finger Lakes Pride. And what we would like to do is go in at the yellow level, which is $500 to $1,000 of sponsorship, which is pretty meaningful for an event like that. And what that will give us is a quarter-page ad in the printed Pride brochure materials, a spot on the sign, recognition on social media and from announcements that they made from the stage, and helping the event, and a vendor table spot so we can be there physically with all of our Pride bin stuff. It is possible that we could pay the whole $501+ from the Social Environmental Justice Committee budget, and we thought that that would be something to prioritize. But if you as an individual would like to join in at either cutting some of the cost or, depending how much money people put in, making our donation larger, talk to Jeff Gretton and let him know that you intend for that money to be joined in for the pledge and sponsorship opportunity for this year's Pride event, or Laura Wink, the head of the committee. Thanks.
Abby tells me there's going to be some reuse examples for after the service that she'll have in the back. So if people have ideas about doing reuse, we have that. And then thank you again for mentioning the eggs, but I'll underscore that point. The egg filling is today, and we would appreciate your help. Thank you.
Last week we had our pledge drive kickoff, and today we're unveiling our pledgeometer. You can see at the back of the room. Maybe you could keep it closed for just a sec so people can see it from here. Thanks to Matt Ross McGuire, we have this beautiful artwork. Each star represents $2,000 in pledges, so we're up to $26,000 as of today, and I think it's a great start. Keep those pledges coming in. Thanks so much for all your support. Did you get a picture of it? Yeah? Okay. Thank you.
As we prepare to be fully present, I remind you to silence your phone or other devices. We now enter into a space of worship. Now is the time to bring forward any joys or sorrows, or come up and drop a pebble. I invite you to join with us in our chalice lighting words. Do we have anybody who wants to help with lighting? Okay. Oh, we don't have the candle lit. Sorry. Bill.
Let's see.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. We're gonna go.
Okay, are you guys ready? All right. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign for our quest for truth and meaning, and celebration of the life we share together.
wonderful to be with you all here worshiping this morning. It's been a pleasure to get to know Reverend Cindy over this past year and continue the close collaboration between our congregations and between our ministries. So I'm delighted to be with you again this year as I think I'm the last of any of these churches rounding out the pulpit exchange this season. So I want to begin this morning with a favorite poem of mine. It's In Broken Images by the English poet Robert Graves. He is quick, thinking in clear images. I am slow, thinking in broken images. He becomes dull, trusting to his clear images. I become sharp, mistrusting my broken images. Trusting his images, he assumes their relevance. Mistrusting my images, I question their relevance. Assuming their relevance, he assumes the fact. Questioning their relevance, I question the fact. When the fact fails him, he questions his senses. When the fact fails me, I approve my senses. He continues quick and dull in his clear images. I continue slow and sharp in my broken images. He in a new confusion of his understanding, I in an understanding of my confusion. Please rise in body or spirit and join in our opening hymn, number 389 in the gray hymnal, Gathered Here. I have a story for all ages to share, so I would invite any of the children and young folk to come forward to hear the story of the frog and the scorpion. Anyone familiar with this story, the frog and the scorpion? Some of you. It's one of those stories, it's a fable, it comes to us, we're not entirely sure where, but perhaps from Russia about a century ago. And the story begins with the frog. This frog lived in the banks of a river, near a jungle, and one day there was a horrible fire in the jungle, and so the frog's home was in danger, and the frog had to escape this danger. So the frog comes out of the jungle and comes down to the banks of the river and gets ready to swim across to safety. But before the frog has a chance to do that, somebody comes up, a scorpion comes up next to the frog and says, "Please, I too live here but am in danger and I need to get to safety on the other side of the river, but I can't swim. Will you carry me on your back?" says this scorpion with its large stinger held up behind it. And so the frog thinks about this for a second and looks at the scorpion with its menacing stinger and says, "Well, I'm worried, won't you sting me and hurt me?" And the scorpion says, "Well, no, of course I would never do that, because if I stung you while we were going across the river, then we would both drown. And that wouldn't make any sense. So why would I do that?" And the frog thinks about this and says, "Okay, that makes sense. Sure, hop on my back and let's swim across." And as they're swimming across, the scorpion on the frog's back, suddenly there's a sting and a pinch, and the frog is stung, and they wrestle around in the waters, and they both begin to drown. And the frog turns to the scorpion and says, "Why did you sting me? Now we are both going to drown." And the frog says, "It is in my nature to sting." Now, I meant to say this at the outset, but I actually have two other versions of this story to share, so don't worry about that ending if it's a little upsetting. Version 2 of this story, same frog, same fire, the frog needs to get across the river. And up comes the scorpion, and the scorpion says, "Please, will you help me get across? I can't swim. Will you carry me on your back?" And the frog thinks about it and asks that same question. "Well, aren't you going to sting me?" And the scorpion assures the frog that he will not sting. Well, the frog thinks about this, takes a deep breath and considers. Even though there's the urgency of the moment, she gives enough thought, and she runs just enough into the forest to get a big banana leaf. And she comes back and she holds that banana leaf on her back. It's a big, thick, strong kind of leaf. So she holds that on her back and she says, "Okay, now hop on my back on top of this banana leaf." And the scorpion says, "Okay," and hops on, and they start to swim across. And sure enough, halfway across, the frog starts to feel a little poke, but it doesn't poke through the banana leaf. And so they are able to swim across and get to the other side. And when they are safely on the other shore, the frog says, "What was that about? You were trying to poke me." And the scorpion says, "I couldn't help it. It is my nature. I'm a scorpion. Stinging is what I do." Now the third version of the story. Same frog, same fire. The scorpion comes up to the frog and says, "Hey, will you please help me get to safety? I need to get across the river to escape this fire." And the frog thinks about it, asks that same question, "Won't you sting me?" The scorpion gives his reasoning. The frog thinks about it and doesn't fully trust. It may trust the intention, but it knows scorpions. And so the frog goes off and gets 2 banana leaves this time, comes back from the forest, and puts one on its back and hands one to the scorpion and says, "Hold this with your stinger up in the air as we go across." So the scorpion says, "Okay, I will do that." We got the frog. The scorpion hops onto the frog's back and starts to swim across, and they move across even faster because the scorpion it still has that instinct to use its stinger, but it's holding on to the palm front, to the banana leaf. And so by holding on to that, it has something to do. It creates sort of a sail, and they swim across even faster than they would have before. And when they get there to the other side, the scorpion frog hops off the frog and says, "Thank you, not only for carrying me across, but for your cleverness in thinking about giving me that sail to hold. Because when we were going across the river, I was so scared. And when I'm scared, the only thing I know how to do is to use my stinger." And so from that day forward, the frog and the scorpion were best of friends, living safely on the other side of the river until the end of their days. And there ends our story.
Now is the time in our worship service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church and its work. Each week we would like to spotlight a group or committee and thank them for their gift of time. This week the group is Buildings and Grounds. People interested in finding out more can talk to Brendan. 1/4 of our plate collection for the muddy season will go to our service partner, Friends of Ganondigan. They work to honor and promote Haudenosaunee history and culture and to strengthen the traditions through inspirational and transformative programming and other activities at Ganondigan, an internationally recognized resource for the Haudenosaunee history, culture, and living traditions that express universal ideas of peace, cooperation, and respect for one another and the natural world. You can give to this week's offering by placing cash or a check into the basket or by one of the options on your screen. Please make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering.
And everyone neath the vine and big tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And everyone neath the vine and big tree shall live in peace and unafraid. And into plowshares turn their souls, nations shall learn more. And into plowshares turn their souls, nations shall learn more.
So we have a joy from Peter and Mary Beth. Yesterday, we attended 2 No Kings events in Penyan and in Canandaigua. The joy is many people and friends, lots of love. And a note from Aaron, I think I can read this. We are getting a new cousin today. Okay. That's quite a joy, okay. And then I'm offering my own concern for a transgender friend who is traveling abroad in April. Nobody knows what's going to happen in these airports these days. So I will drop a pebble in the water for all the joys and concerns that are still unspoken today. If you would help me out by saying, "We are with you." And now it's time to send the children down for their class downstairs with Kaya and Nancy.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the love of all surround you everywhere,
Please join me now in the spirit of prayer, meditation, and reflection. I invite you to settle your body into our shared space. Bring your attention to your breath, to the sights and sounds of this present moment, even if it is just the hum of this room or the underside of your eyelids. And into this space of centered awareness, I offer this prayer adapted from the Reverend Rebecca Savage. Great mystery which grounds us and surrounds us, divine presence known by many names and beyond all naming, eternal mystery that holds us close, receive the meditations of our hearts this day. We come together in this quiet moment to unify our hearts again towards the clarion call of our time. May justice and equity guide us to greater connection and to a greater truth. And may we know that our individual part to play is just as great. To approach dismantling the systems of oppression within ourselves in order for all of us to be free. To know that when I cherish and tend to the divine spark within me, when I know in my bones that I am worthy of love just as I am, that I am whole just as I am, that there is a greater potential for mutual understanding and care. Love is not scarce, though our ability to extend compassion and grace may be. We rededicate ourselves to love. I place my hand over my heart, and I know I can feel the spirit of life within me. And I invite you to place your hand over your heart and feel the spirit of life within you. The spirit of life is divine within us. The spirit of life is here. This is the beginning of justice and equity and truth when we go within in order to be of service in our communities and to our world. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be. From the earliest Unitarians who found no evidence for the doctrine of the Trinity in the Bible, or the earliest Universalists who saw no evidence for the doctrine of eternal tormenting punishment, our faith has been indebted to a practice of skepticism, of not accepting the truths handed down from past generations without rigorous investigation. From Abner Kneeland, who was a Universalist minister until he questioned the need to even believe in God at all, and became the last man jailed for blasphemy in America, at least so far. Last man jailed for blasphemy in the 1830s. To Ralph Waldo Emerson, who questioned the ritual of communion and encouraged a direct relationship with the divine. Sometimes the most traditional thing that we can do as Unitarian Universalists is reject tradition and develop something new and vibrant. From the signers of the Humanist Manifesto to those whose skepticism led them to the signers of the Humanist Manifesto, those whose skepticism led them to a rejection of supernaturalism and an embrace of human potential and goodness, to the leaders in the early 21st century who suspected that Unitarian Universalism could hold more room for more kinds of spiritual and reverential and metaphorical language. Our faith has called us to the self-reflection, growth, and innovation that arises from an authentic and balanced skepticism. And to be clear, our tradition is not the only one steeped in skepticism. Indeed, the roots of Western philosophy, which influence all of the religion that comes later, much of it is found, the roots in the skepticism of the ancient Greek philosophy, and in particular the skepticism of Socrates, who may have been the first recorded person to be sentenced to death for being too annoying. That is, for asking too many questions. I believe the official charge was corrupting the youth, but that's how you get there, apparently. Now, Socrates also exemplified the advice to not believe everything that you think. His only real claim was that he knew nothing, and neither did you. So his Socratic method of questioning, recorded in the dialogues of Plato, would leave his conversation partners exasperated as he systematically deconstructed their claims to knowledge of morality, or of the will of the gods, or of the nature of justice. Another gift, I think, that comes from the ancient Greeks is the concept of virtue, specifically as a kind of ethical framework. Now, I will spare you nerding out and giving you a philosophy lecture about various ethical models in philosophy, but the important thing to know is that virtue ethics is not about using logic or science to determine the most ethically correct action for any given situation. It admits that life is just messier than all of that. But it does hold that what we can do is strive for moral excellence, striking the golden balance between two contrasting vices, right? So the classic example is that the virtue of courage is what is found when we avoid being too cowardly, on one hand, the vice of cowardice, and not being too foolhardy on the other side. One must be brave enough to act even while afraid, but not foolish enough to act without considering the risks. So it's a game of balance. So if skepticism is a virtue, as I think that it is, then the vices that we are trying to avoid are gullibility on the one hand, and what we might call contrarianism on the other. Skepticism is not about just disbelieving everything as a knee-jerk starting reaction, but it's about understanding what makes compelling evidence to accept a claim. Returning to the Greek, the word skeptic comes to us from the Greek word skepsis, which just means examination or inquiry or consideration. It's not about disbelief as a rule, it's about investigating what people claim to be true. There's a difference between saying no to everything and answering everything else with a question. If you've ever heard of yes-anding in improv, it's kind of like that. If you just say no to everything, the scene falls flat. But if you answer with a yes, or at least with a question, that can move things forward. So whether it's a notice from the state of New York that turns out to be a scam that we want to investigate, or taking our story this morning, the promises of the scorpion that he will not sting the frog. In the original version of the story, it seems that the frog was not skeptical enough of the scorpion. But on deeper reflection, I would also say that the problem is that the frog, that she was too skeptical of herself. She has this initial reaction of, oh, the scorpion is very likely to sting me, but then she accepts the promise from the scorpion. She doesn't trust that initial wariness. In the second and third version, the frog acts even more as a virtuous skeptic because she spends enough time reflecting on the situation, and I think most importantly that she becomes skeptical of the idea that her only options are saying yes or no. By being skeptical of the scorpion's framing of the situation, she's able to imagine an alternative possibility. And this capacity to imagine alternative possibilities to what we are told or to what we have previously thought is possible, that limitation, is where the virtue of skepticism and hope overlap. Because hope, as distinct from optimism, is grounded, from my understanding, in the conviction that we don't know the future. So we cannot say the future will definitely be bad, like pessimism does, but we cannot say that it is definitely good either, like optimism does. If we hold skepticism of both of these claims, we can be led to being grounded in the present moment, open to the infinite possibilities of life, and empowered to take actions that shape those possible futures. This is why I'm compelled to preach the gospel of skepticism, because when understood properly as a virtue, a skeptical approach can ground us in hope, in truth, and in the love that is at the center of our faith. It's an important religious value, skepticism, to our tradition of heretics and blasphemers. And also, it's an important political and ethical value, necessary for safeguarding democracy and liberty from the clutches of tyranny. Now, speaking of tyranny, I do want to lift up one of the 20 lessons from Timothy Snyder's On Tyranny. It's a small, easy book to read, and I highly recommend it in these times. Lesson 11 is investigate. And it reads, "Figure things out for yourself. Spend more time with long articles. Subsidize investigative journalism by subscribing to print media. Realize that some of what is on the internet is there to harm you. Learn about sites that investigate propaganda campaigns, some of which come from abroad. Take responsibility for what you communicate with others." In this chapter, the author, Timothy Snyder, makes the provocative claim that it is your duty, that it is your ability to discern facts that makes you an individual, and our collective trust in common knowledge that makes us a society. Now, I admit I am at first a little bit skeptical of this claim. I don't know if I fully agree with it, that idea that what makes us an individual is our ability to discern facts. But I do hear him about the importance of that and how, when we come together discerning facts, we create collective trust in common knowledge, which is necessary for a shared society. It's important for us to think about how we each have immense power and therefore immense responsibility to discern what is true. And then we must use this power wisely in the service of truth. Snyder finishes the chapter by saying that each one of us bears some private responsibility for the public's sense of truth. If we are serious about seeking the facts, we can each make a small revolution in the way the internet works. If you are verifying information yourself, you will not send on fake news to others. If you choose to follow reporters with whom you have reason to trust, you can also transmit what they have learned to others. If you repost only the work of humans who have followed journalistic protocols, you are less likely to debase your brain interacting with bots and trolls. Now, this book was published in 2017, and today we might add AI to the bots and trolls out there on the internet that we should be skeptical about. Here's one way that I've been thinking about it. I've been thinking a lot about short, pithy, anti-fascist phrases like "make me." And there are more stronger worded versions of these as well, you may have heard. Depressingly few of our institutional leaders, I would say, have embraced "make me" as their response to the Trump administration's bullying behavior. But I think we would all do well to adopt another anti-fascist phrase to keep on the tip of our tongues: prove it. Whether in response to official statements from the Trump administration or his enablers in Congress, or to the stories, claims, facts, and figures you see scrolling past on social media, even the ones that you think are encouraging, they may be untrustworthy, and we should be skeptical. Even in legacy news outlets like CNN, which now features betting odds about certain things as if those were current event headlines themselves, or the Washington Post, which in the last month or so laid off half of its journalists. Again, the skepticism I'm talking about is not to say prove it as a knee-jerk reaction that puts all the labor of investigation on others and just abdicates that responsibility and disbelieves everything. But rather it is a spiritual discipline of slowing down, of holding back acceptance of claims until we have satisfied a slightly higher threshold of credibility. The good news is that we are not alone in this work. Millions of people showed up yesterday to the third No Kings protest, as I know many of you did, to protest in part the lies being said about America, the lies being said from our government, the lies about what America is and should be and could be, and to claim, on the other hand, the truth about what America is supposed to be about: freedom, justice, equality. There are journalists who are doing this work. There are community members cataloging and telling the truth about these times. Some of them are shouting from the rooftops and trying to share information in trustworthy ways. There are some collecting hard copies of official documents and reports that may be needed for future accountability processes. I among others, have talked about we may need a 21st century Nuremberg trial for the abuses of the American government in these last few years. On the other hand, the behavior of our current government brings to mind the quote from George Orwell's 1984 novel. No, the novel is from the 40s, but the novel is entitled 1984. The quote is, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final and most essential command." Our faith tells us to, on the other hand, and in the words of the Apostle Paul, prove all things. hold fast that which is good. This is what I think Robert Graves talked about in his poem, In Broken Images. This isn't about having the intellectual rigor to question everything and to be a gadfly in the ointment. It's about having the emotional capacity to slow down just enough to trust our own eyes and ears and brains, to hold fast to the good because our world depends on that, to mistrust our broken images, questioning their relevance and fact, allowing our senses to grow sharp and slow. The virtue of skepticism invites us to develop a closer relationship with truth and with one another, not a more adversarial one. Even as, or especially because we don't come to a conclusion of absolute certainty, we can come closer in our relationship with the truth. Through skepticism, we can try to avoid, at least better than we otherwise would, the pitfalls of self-righteousness, narrow-mindedness, and just plain error, the propaganda of governments, and the advertisements of corporations, and instead stay open to the beauty, truth, and wisdom in our world, in nature, in each other, in humanity. Continuing forward slowly in a new understanding of our confusion. May it ever be so.
The star of truth, but dimly shines behind the veiling clouds of night. But every searching eye divines some partial glimmer of its light. From honest doubt we shall not flee, nor fetter the inquiring mind, nor wear our hearts of all our creed. A truer faith we there shall find.
May you go forth slow and sharp in broken images, questioning everything, holding fast that which is good, ever seeking truth, which is justice, which is beauty. Please rise in body or in spirit for our closing hymn, We Laugh, We Cry. It's number 354 in the gray hymnal. We will do verses 1 and 4.
We need to feel there's something here.
you are with us today on Zoom and would like to wave goodbye at the end of the service, you can turn on your camera now. Please join me in our words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.